Did you grow up in a childhood environment where you were taught to constantly abandon yourself in order to get your needs met? Does this still manifest in your adult lives as consistently breaking promises with yourself, even if you know that they are in your best interest to keep? Or maybe you are so far removed and detached from your own self that you don't even know what a good relationship with yourself looks like. If any of these resonate with you, you are in the right place. Hello, beautiful. Welcome to my channel. I'm Grace and I'm a self-love coach. And today's video is all about self-betrayal and self-trust. We're going to be talking about what are some of the causes of self-betrayal and how we can move more into a relationship of self-trust within ourselves. Stick around because I have 5 tips for you guys to help cultivate that healthy relationship of self-trust. The first important thing that we can understand is that humans are a relational species, meaning we depend on others for survival, especially in childhood, right? For us special, beautiful humans, it takes us a long time to be able to fulfill our own needs and to even understand what that looks like. Because we are so dependent on others for love and for care, especially in our younger years, it can be really harmful and painful for us to not be able to get our core needs for love and belonging and care met. Now, let me just get this out of the way because everyone has trauma, right? And whatever trauma that you have is not your fault. However, now that you are a fully grown, beautiful human, right? You are an adult now. It is our personal responsibility to take ownership of that trauma and how that affects how we move through our everyday life. So if growing up you had a really unstable, traumatic, painful, or maybe even very restrictive childhood, it's possible that you were taught to deny, suppress, and reject parts of yourself that were deemed unacceptable, right? This is a huge issue that we see, especially when transactional love, meaning I will love you for these specific parts of you, or if you show up in this specific way, was common in your household. So when we're taught that in order to get our survival needs met, that we have to disown and betray parts of our own selves, this can be really painful, and it is a very challenging pattern for us to break as we move into our adult lives. When we're healing a pattern of self-betrayal, it's often not about breaking that cycle, right? Because we're not fighting against what isn't working. My personal philosophy is that that is a misuse of energy. When we can focus on what it is that we want to create, such as in this case, self-trust, we can give ourselves more opportunity to naturally move away from the cycle that we knew. When we focus on what we want to create, then we no longer have to be fixated on destroying what is not working. Because we are cultivating this new way of being, we're building new habits and new patterns, what's no longer serving us will begin to naturally fall away for us, and we can begin to use our energy more effectively. Now, before we get into my 5 ways to build self-trust, I want to briefly share with you my story of how I went from being horribly self-betraying and how that manifested in my life. And now, having cultivated such a strong relationship of self-trust that it's manifesting in every relationship around me and every situation that I encounter. Now, my default patterning, like so many of you guys as well, has been to really put myself last, right? Especially in the context of romantic partnerships. I learned early on that the only way to get my needs met was to always be performing and to be showing up and to be providing something. I was the ultimate giver. I would endlessly give even when I didn't really have anything left to give. You can't really pour from the empty cup, if you know what I'm saying. And this began to manifest in my life in very uncomfortable ways. I began to attract all kinds of manipulative, abusive partners into my life. And what I finally realized was I had to have a really firm conversation with myself about how I am contributing to this patterning, right? How am I allowing this in my life, and what core beliefs, what mindsets, what adaptation mechanisms did I learn early on in life that are contributing to this patterning? And what I have found is that the relationship I have with myself is mirrored in the relationships that I have with everyone else around me in my life. So you can imagine what a rude awakening that was when I finally recognized, okay, I really need to work on myself. If we're not cultivating a relationship of self-love and self-trust with ourselves first and foremost, the universe has no blueprint on what kind of interactions we want with other people. It works in this magical way where it's just gonna give us what we have inside of us. So if you can relate to my own journey, these 5 tips are gonna help you guys immensely. The first tip that I have for you guys is to make one small promise to yourself every day and keep it. When we do this, right, we are building incrementally on a daily basis a relationship of trust, meaning that we are honoring our own promises to ourselves. In his book, The 4 Agreements, Don Michael Ruiz talks about being impeccable with your word. If you guys haven't read this book yet, check it out because it is absolutely phenomenal. And part of being impeccable with your word is really honoring the promises that you make to yourself. After all, if we don't treat ourselves as being worthy of keeping the promises and the agreements that we've made with ourselves, why should we expect anyone else in the world to do the same for us? We need to show up for ourselves first and foremost. And these promises don't have to be like gigantic promises like I'm gonna take you on a trip to Italy this year. I mean, if that's what your promise to yourself is, great, go for it. Absolutely, Italy's awesome. However, the point that I'm making is that this relationship of trust is built incrementally in small, continuous steps throughout time. That is going to strengthen that relationship of self-trust. So an example for my own life, my non-negotiable every day has been my morning rituals. If you guys are curious about that, check that video out. I'm gonna link it somewhere up here and also in the description box below. I know that in order to show up fully every day as my best self, this is a promise that I need to keep with myself, and it's a time for me to really revel and like bask in the beauty of my own energy. And you know what? You deserve the same from yourself too, because you are an incredible, beautiful, magical, divine spiritual being having this amazing adventure of the human experience. And you deserve to show up for yourself. The second way to build self-trust is to say yes only when you really, 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 really mean it. In other words, don't be afraid to say no to requests from other people. This is one that I have had a really hard time with in the past. You know, I was the perpetual people pleaser, right? I had no concept of really what my own needs were, where my energetic limitations were, and I would overextend my energy to the point where I burnt myself out so hard, and it was not a good situation for anyone involved, least of all myself. And if you also struggle with saying no, I know that this comes from a place of wanting to feel safety and belonging. So sometimes it can be really hard to say no and risk the possible social rejection that might come from that. However, we're not doing anyone any favors by saying yes when we really don't want to be saying yes. Not only are we not living in alignment with ourselves, but we're also betraying our own needs. And we're also sending people the message and sending the universe a message that we're not worth it. It's this energy that we're putting out of really only being there to please other people, right? We're not taking into account what is most in alignment for ourselves, and therefore what is best going to serve us and the people around us. Saying no is necessary and it is valid. No is a complete sentence in and of itself. Now, when we say yes to something because that is truly in alignment with us, we are cultivating such a strong energy of self-love because we are showing up to the things that really resonate with our hearts and that really matter to our human experience. When we are able to say yes and say no from a heart-centered space, then we are proving to ourselves that, hey, I can show up for you. I have the ability to protect you and to hold you safely. This, of course, comes from a space of self-knowing and really discovering what resonates with you and what doesn't. And a quick extra little tip for those of us who may struggle to say no and say yes because we feel pressured, and that's often our first initial reaction is to say yes to things. What's really helped me to become more comfortable in saying no, if you can't think of something right in the moment when someone's asking you to go to that party or to take on this extra workload or to do something that you really don't want to be doing, is to say, let me think about it, I'll get back to you. That way you have some time to really consider and reflect on, okay, is this going to serve me? Is this in alignment with me? Does this feel good to me in any way, shape, or form? And by giving yourself that little break, right, you're taking off the pressure of having to respond immediately in the moment, which can be a little scary sometimes when we're not used to being able to act in accordance with our own needs. The third way I have for you guys to build self-trust is to be kind in how you choose to speak to yourself. Now, this is also part of one of the 4 agreements in the book, The 4 Agreements, which was be impeccable with your word. And part of this is really being mindful of how you speak to yourself, right? And of course, the first step to this is awareness, bringing awareness to your internal dialogue. We all have this ongoing monologue in the background of our days, in the background of our mind, right? And how often do we bring awareness to this and become mindful of this? So if you find that you are really criticizing yourself a lot, or maybe you're self-judging, and even for some of us, we've internalized the abuse that we've received throughout life, right? And now we become our own self-abusers. Really becoming aware of how we are interacting with ourselves and choosing to be impeccable with how we decide to speak to ourselves is pivotal in cultivating self-trust, right? In order to have self-trust, we need to have a loving and kind relationship with ourselves. And if you're finding that you're having a really hard time and you're maybe bashing yourself a little bit more than you would like, know that you are not alone. I have a hard time with this as well. It takes a long time in order to really understand and rewire your subconscious programming, right? It takes practice. It is a process. And for some of us, it's going to be a lifelong journey, right? We're going to have those negative self-speak patterns that pop up in our lives. However, we can choose what we pay attention to, right? We don't have to feed in to every negative thought we have that arises with ourselves. The fourth way I have for you guys to build self-trust is to be authentic in how you show up when you engage with others. Be in alignment with what your personal truth is. So instead of trying to make yourself small or dimming your light in order to fit in and belong and feel safe in your social environments, allow your true nature, your true light to really shine through. And whoever is going to resonate with that will gravitate towards you. And whoever is repelled by that and chooses to maybe no longer associate with you, or they choose to leave your life, let them. They are doing you and themselves a huge favor. If you are showing up authentically and people aren't resonating with that, then these people weren't meant for you in the first place. And if you try to grasp onto these people and say, no, please don't leave me, that is only signaling to the universe that you want people in your lives who don't actually appreciate you for who you actually are. Maybe they just appreciate you for the way that you've been showing up for them and abandoning yourself. So don't worry about how people are necessarily going to respond when you step into your truest authenticity, because the people who are meant for you will stay, and those who aren't meant for you are going to do you a favor and leave your life in order to open up more space for those who actually can appreciate you and value you for who you are to come into your life. This was one of the ones that I had a really hard time with when I was younger. And one of the things that really helped me was when I was doing my coaching certification training, there was this saying about not fitting in. right? A lot of times we try and fit into our environments. However, some of us are meant to fit out. We're not meant to necessarily fit ourselves into this tiny little box of what people are supposed to be like. Some of us are meant to rise above what is conventionally acceptable, right? What is socially okay and allowed. And there is nothing wrong with you for not fitting in. You are a unique butterfly of a soul, right? And you deserve to express your truest authenticity and your inner truth and to live in alignment with that. Maybe if you don't fit in, it's because you're not meant to. Maybe it's because you're meant to lead, you're meant to influence, you're meant to radiate your light into the world in a more meaningful way. And that, my friend, is such a beautiful, magical gift. Now, the fifth way to build self-trust is to really prioritize your own needs and your own self-care. Take care of you first and honor what your needs are in every day. And that's going to change day by day as you change, and your needs are going to fluctuate a little bit. However, we've all heard the saying, right? You can't pour from an empty cup. When we can allow ourselves to fill our own cups, right? And that cup overflows with the love and the care and the attention that we give ourselves, then it can trickle out and begin to fill the cups around us. When you prioritize your own needs, what you are saying to yourself is, hey, you matter. You're important, and I got you. I got you, sis. I got you. So if you don't really know where to start with this entire process of building self-trust, maybe start there. Start by recommitting, or maybe for the first time committing to that relationship with yourself. Because let's face it, you guys, this is the longest relationship you're ever gonna have. So you may as well make it a good one. Thank you so much for joining me for today's video. I hope it was helpful for you. If you are cultivating a relationship with self-trust, let me know in the comment section below how that's going for you, what's worked for you, what hasn't worked. And remember to be patient with yourselves along this journey. It takes a lot to unlearn all the programming that we've learned and to really put in new relationship programming with ourselves. You deserve to show up fully for yourself. You deserve all the love, the care, the thoughtfulness that you show to everyone else in your life. You are just as deserving of that. If you liked this video and it really resonated with you, show me some love by hitting that thumbs up and subscribing to my channel for more content like this every week. I'm sending you so much love wherever you may be on your journey. Have a beautiful rest of your day.